crucial part of managing project information is controlling what people can and cannot do. Let's start by opening the project settings and then looking at mail and document role settings. These roles are project specific and control what people from an organisation can do in terms of what mail types they can create and send, what document types they can upload, and the status they can apply to documents. Essentially, these roles and settings provide a tailored experience for each organisation and make sure that they only have access to the things they really need. Think of them as being a little bit like a user or an organisational profile. As part of each implementation, we'll help you set up some roles. Here are some examples. But you can change and adapt them as the project progresses to match any changes in your requirements. You can even create new ones. So let's start by doing that. We click here to create a new role. The first thing we need to do is give the role a meaningful name. Typically, roles are used to control a functional role like a consultant or subcontractor. Let's create one for the various consulting organisations on this project. The Set as Default option is something we'll come back to in a moment. The three tabs will focus on mail types, doc types and doc statuses. On the left, you'll see a list of mail types, and on the right are the types that are made available to this role. Let's select a couple of types. We'll just click and use the arrows to move them across or double click a type. The Show All checkbox will list all available types, and these will differ depending on where in the world you're logging into Aconex. You can start by typing in part of a name to filter the list of types, and then you can add more types as you see fit. Next, you can do the same for doc types, and then doc statuses. The process is the same. Once you're done, you click OK to save the role. To assign the role to an organisation, just tick the box for the organisation under the relevant role. If you tick more than one role for an organisation, they'll get all the types from the selected roles. A word of warning here. Don't be tempted to add lots of mail types, doc types and statuses. It's always best to keep the available types as few as possible because it helps reduce mistakes. Too much choice generally confuses people, and if the list is very long, they often end up just picking something near the top of the list. What you'll need to do as a project administrator is to make sure that as organisations are invited to the project, they're assigned to the relevant role. If you forget to do this, they may end up with incorrect mail and document types. We can use the default setting to help reduce the chances of this happening. We'll edit one of the roles to show you what to do. The checkbox here means that any newly invited organisation will automatically be assigned this role. We recommend that you create a basic role that has the bare minimum types added to it and then make that the default. Like this one here. That way, if you forget to assign them, at least they'll have access to some basic document types and mail types. Finally, there is the Copy From Project button. This can be a big time saver if you've already spent some time setting them up previously. As a project administrator, you'll need to manage the various document fields. Let's take a look. Fields are what allow us to capture additional information about documents, effectively tagging them so that we can quickly and easily retrieve them later on. These can be found under Project Settings. Then we'll need to expand the Documents section and open Document Fields. You'll see plenty of fields and plenty of options. When your project is first created, our team will help you decide what fields are used and how they're configured. But as with roles, the project administrator can make changes as the project requirements change. Let's start by moving through the columns that we can see. First is Label. This shows us the name of the field as it will appear to users when they're in the document register. This label or name should be easy to understand for everyone, otherwise tagging and classification mistakes will happen. In this example, we can see some field labels that have yet to be used and named. Next is the Use Field column. and it determines if the field is available for use in the register. In other words, is it being used? Use the checkboxes to make a field available for use. Then the mandatory column allows us to specify if a field must be completed when uploading or superseding documents. Mandatory fields cannot be left blank. Use the checkboxes to make a field mandatory. Some of the fields can't be changed, and these are the minimum fields required to use Aconex. Some of the label names can be changed, but you'll need to contact our service desk team to get them to unlock them for you. Next are field types. These allow us to capture information in different ways. We have text fields, single and multi-select lists, dates, numbers and checkboxes. Most of these also have character limits too. For example, the document title field allows a maximum of 255 characters. As an administrator, it's your job to ensure that the fields are configured correctly and maintained. We always recommend keeping everything as simple as possible, and that means not using any more fields than is absolutely necessary. More fields means more administration and potentially more confusion for the project team. One of the things you'll probably need to do more often than anything else is to manage the values in the single and multi-select list fields. It's likely that these will need to change over the life of the project. So let's open up the list for one of the fields, the one for discipline. You can see that this field already has some values. These values are what users see whenever they upload or supersede a document. You can add new values like this. Just add each value on a new line. When you're done, click Add. Simple. Because this is a single select list, we need to include a code for each value. These codes are used with the auto numbering feature, and you can find out more about that feature on Support Central. If we want to remove a value, we use the checkboxes on the right and click Save, like this. It's important to remember that once a value is used to tag a document, it will always remain in the register for searching purposes, even though it can no longer be selected for new or updated documents. That's why you need to be very careful about adding values without considering if you really need them, and make sure that you double check the spelling of any unusual values. Document fields are relatively simple to understand, but their configuration and management can easily get complicated and cause confusion. Only capture what you really need